me. So just like I said here, that only you can determine what an excellent story means to you. And that is because art is very subjective, you know, and storytelling is art, which means that what you watch out for may not be exactly what I watch out for, which means that we are going to enjoy stories differently. So personally for me, just like everybody has said, flow, how a story flows is super important to me. And I like to describe flow as a ladder. You're climbing a ladder, you're moving from one step to another step to another step. So it's like 1, 2, 3, you don't move from number 1 to number 7, or you move from number 1 to number 5 and then come back to number 3. At that point, it's becoming bumpy. So how a story flows is super important to me. Same thing with structure, same thing with depth. I've read a lot of stories that are very shallow. You read the stories and it makes you feel nothing. And then at the end of the day, you're like, So depth is also super important. Same with emotional impact, dialogue, diction, language. So I watch a lot of British movies, especially historical movies, and it's because of their dialogue. I mean, because of these movies, sometimes I have a book and a pen, and then I jot down some of the phrases and some of the words used in the movies. And the same thing with readability. Now, to achieve all of this, you need 2 things. Of course, more than 2 things, but for the sake of this class, you need research and you need structure. So now, what is research? To explain research, I'm also going to be asking certain questions. So get ready to, make this as interactive as possible. Question 1, you are visiting Jos for the first time. How many people here have visited Jos? You can just raise your hands. Okay, Adugo has visited Jos. Who else has visited Jos? Okay, so Jos is a very beautiful place, and I stayed there for, Mr. Red. Who is Mr. Red? Mr. Red, please turn on your video so I can see your face. Yeah, so I stayed in Jos for a couple of years, and I loved staying in Jos. So you are visiting Jos for the first time, and your aunt has asked you to come to Faringada, but you are currently at Bukuru. Now her number is switched off. What are you going to do? Who is willing to answer that? What's the first thing you are going to do? Okay, it's time to call names. Let's start with Mr. Red. Your auntie's number is switched off. You have to go to Faringada, but you are currently at Bukuru. What are you going to do? Okay, looks like Mr. Red is not here. Sunny, let's start with you. Okay, you're muted in case you're saying something. Okay, let's make this as fast as possible. So what are you going to do?
I think I'll take the first option. I'll probably have to, because when I get to Mangu, what next? So I would want to know from Mangu to where
No,
before
we're
I get.
no, hold on. We're still in question 1. You are currently at Bukuru, but you are heading to Faringada, and your auntie's number is switched off. What are you going to do in this?
I'll probably ask somebody at the Bukuru how to get to Faringada. I'll try to know all the routes I'm supposed to take to get to Faringada before I board the bus.
Great. Thank you very much. Now let's move to question 2. You have now asked one person, and the person said you should board a cab to Mangu. What do you do next? Are you going to board a cab to Mangu, or are you going to ask another person? Let's hear from Miracle.
I'll ask another person just to get clarity.
Okay, you ask another person. Still on Miracle. Now you've asked 2 people. The first person said, go to Mangu. Then the second person said, you should go to Rayfield first before you go to Faringada. What will be your next step?
I think I'll try Google Map at that point.
You will try Google Map. Great. Okay, who else has a different answer? Laura, do you have a different answer?
So I think that I would choose my actual and my place I'm going to is at book two. I don't understand why I need to go somewhere else. I don't know because I think he said something like the second person said I should go to pick a cab to Redfield. Maybe the first person I asked said to go to Mango. If Mango is going to take me, in fact, I'm just going to do Map, honestly.
Okay, you use Google Map. Adugo, do you have a different answer?
I think that my first call is usually just to ask people, right? Just because sometimes there's a humanistic approach to things. Someone can say, this is the best route. And most times I tend to ask like people who are selling foodstuff or who are selling petty traders around, because I feel they don't have vested interest in me. They are just there, and most times they know the routes better, it's their area. So I'm going to probably ask one or two petty traders, and then if I'm still not clear, I'll ask Google Map. The truth is that I don't even use Google Map until I've reached close to the place I'm going, and I'm now looking for the particular spot, go, just so that I don't lose. And Google Map is saying you have arrived at the center of, of the bridge.
At the center of nowhere. Okay, I understand that. Which brings us to question 3. Everybody has had a very interesting answer, but I was expecting somebody to say, oh, I'll ask a third person. And if the third person says, go to Mango, I'll believe Mango. And if the third person says, go to Rayfield, I'll believe Rayfield. But which brings us to our third answer. Why are we obsessed with ensuring that we get the right information about Ferengada? Why would you ask this, ask that, use Google Map? Why are you obsessed with that? Who wants to answer that? Except people want me to be calling names.
Can I answer that
You
one?
said,
Can I answer that one?
yes, you can.
Okay, the reason why I think I should be obsessed is because I don't want to miss my way. Because if I miss my way, I will not get to my destination. And it's going to cost me a lot. Because if I miss my way, that means I'm going to pay extra cash or transport to get back to where I started, to start all over again. So, and if I miss my way, it is going to be difficult because at that point, you don't even know any person there. So, who is going to lead you back to where you're going to? So, the major reason why I have to be obsessed with the exact place I'm going to is because I don't want to miss my way.
Exactly. And your auntie's number is switched off, which means that Kasala bust, right? And we're also talking about issues of security and safety too. You don't want to find yourself at odd places. But yeah, you are absolutely correct, because you see, the first person that asked you to go to Mango, Mango is a totally different place from Jos. So it's like you are currently in Ikeja and someone says, you from Ikeja, you want to go to Maryland, and someone says, why don't you go to Lekki first? You understand? When you get to Lekki, you now from Ikeja, when you get to Lekki, then from Lekki, you will find a way to Maryland. That's exactly how this first person who asked you to go to Mango, that's exactly what the person has done. So it's very important to ask another person. And we are obsessed because we would if you check Google Map and you don't understand, you will still ask a third, you ask a fourth, you ask a fifth, until you eventually get your answer. One, you don't want to get lost. And while this one is physical, we can see the repercussion of not asking. It's the same thing with writing and research. A lot of people just want to write. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't do your research, you are misleading people, and you're even misleading yourself. While it's not physical like this, you are not probably going to be attacked by armed robbers or whatever. The consequences are equally bad. You get? So now let's talk about research. Research in storytelling makes all the difference, in whether or not your story is credible. So without research, you are going to lose your way. Like somebody who wants to go to Faringada. He is already in Jos, but he now has to go to Mango first. So now imagine the person did not ask another person. He will board the bus to Mango. And when he gets to Mango, he will realize that, hold on, Mango is a different, in fact, I don't want to call it province. But if you've stayed in Plateau State, you know that Mango and Jos, they're like this. And it takes hours to get to Mango from Jos. So the person will not only lose his way, the person would lose time, lose resources, lose energy, apparently lose everything. And if he's not careful, we talk about Gbomo a lot. We talk about kidnappers. We talk about armed robbers and thieves and all of that. If the person is not careful, the person will lose his life or lose a body part. So yeah, it's the same thing with research. If you don't do research in your story, one, your story lacks credibility. And when it comes to storytelling, trust me, credibility is everything. You want to be that writer that when people read, they believe. They read your work and they understand, they believe. Have you ever read maybe a particular newspaper, or in this era of social media, you read some certain blogs and you're like, I beg you, I know they're lying. Because you know that whatever is coming out of them is fake news. And that's what happens when you don't do proper research, when you run with the first piece of news that you get. So research is pulling resources together to ensure that your story is factual. And people always say, oh, research is tough. Research takes time. It takes time, but research is not tough. It can be both simple, minute, but also in-depth, depending on the kind of story that you are telling. So why should you do your research? Credibility and accuracy. I just used the example of media organizations known for fake news. Nobody believes them. There are some newspapers, when I see them online, I will just beg you. But then there are some that that their word like this is the truth. You know that whatever you are reading, but it is true. Then you also learn on the job and have a deeper understanding of your subject matter. This is what research does. The more you read, the more even you yourself as the writer, the more you understand. It also helps you become more creative. Let me tell you a secret. Before I start writing any story, I read like from 2, 3, 4 different magazines to see what they are saying about that story too. So in reading, I also take note of how they started the sentence, how they opened the story, how they ended the story, the way and manner in which they have written that story. So in all of this, but I'm also learning new things, and it helps me become more creative. Then you can also back up your arguments. If you send me a story and then you say in 1922, so and so happened, I'm going to ask you for the link because you were not born in 1922. How did you know? So with research, you can easily back up your argument, and it helps you pay better attention to details. Because I do extensive reading before I write, extensive research before I write. When somebody is writing Fabu, I know. It just comes with, should I use the word experience? The more you read, the more you research, the more you can spot when somebody is lying in their stories. So you don't want to be that kind of person that gives Fabu when writing. So when should you research? One, before you write. Read, research before you even start writing anything. Then while writing also, and after you write. Some people, after they finish writing, they are done. But no, go back to check your work. Is it factual? Did I write the correct thing? What I have shared here, is it accurate? So you should research before you write, while writing, and after you write. Now, what's the big deal about research? Let's quickly play a game. How many of us here know that Rosa Parks was the first Black woman to refuse to give up her seat for a white woman on the bus, and she sparked that revolution? Just raise your hand if you are aware of this news. We all know Rosa Parks, don't we? Thank you, Miracle. But all of us here know Rosa Parks. We've all heard about the Black woman who she was on a bus and then a white person asked her to get up. Then white and Black people couldn't sit together on the bus. And then a white person asked her to get up and she refused. And because of that, she sparked the revolution. And that was what brought to the end of the whole Black and white-ish stuff on the bus. I mean, we've all heard this story, haven't we? Yes, Kizito, do you want to share something?
I think he's raising his hand in response to the question.
To the question. Okay, cool. Now, did we also know that AIDS is transmittable through sweat and saliva? How many of us knew this? Please just raise your hands so I'm sure that I'm talking to people. How many of us knew that
the hand raising icon? Can you go?
Yes, you can use the hand raising icon. Now, did you also know that Kiss Daniel sang Twetwe? I think everybody knows Twetwe now. Please, if you people don't know Twetwe, I'm going to revoke your Gen Z and millennial cards. Okay, everybody knows Twetwe. Now, here's the catch. Rosa Parks was not the first African-American woman to be arrested for refusing to yield her seat. Before her, there were like 2 or 3 other Black women, but she became the face of this revolution because she was an activist. So because she was an activist, she could move it from just a simple bus situation to an actual revolution. In fact, she did not need to go on that bus because she had a car. But for a long time, over the years, everybody said, oh, Rosa Parks, she refused to do this. Rosa Parks refused to do that. A simple research will show you that she did not. She wasn't the first Black woman. It is the same thing with AIDS. AIDS is not transmittable through sweat and saliva. As a matter of fact, AIDS is not transmittable at all. It is HIV that is transmittable, and even HIV is not transmittable through sweat and saliva. And that's why I have pulled out this text, from the bit of research that I did to show you that this did you know game is actually false. But if you do not do your research, you're just going to be spreading information and be saying, oh, if you kiss somebody who has AIDS, you are going to catch it too. You are giving false info. Or when you are writing about this is Women's Month and you are maybe singing the praises of women, you are going to write about Rosa Parks and say, oh, she was the first Black woman. And then when I read your work, or when another person reads your work, they'll be like, this is not true. Now for the last one, we are going to do this exercise together. We can see, did you know Kiss Daniel sang Twetwe? What's the problem with that sentence? Did anybody notice that there's even a problem with it? Who can tell me what the problem is? Okay, I do go.
So first, it's not Kiss Daniel. I don't think it's Kiss Daniel that is
Kiss Daniel is Kiss is spelled wrong.
Okay, Kiss is spelled wrong. Okay, awesome. I thought you guys would not notice. What's the second problem? There are 2 problems in this question. Can anybody figure out the second problem?
Okay, this is an attempt. I'm not sure. From what I know, the Twetwe are 2 different words, like Twetwe, not together, not one word. Like you.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So I love your attention to detail. So Kiss is spelled wrongly and Twetwe is also spelled wrongly. So Twetwe are 2 different words, not one word. And this is also what research is going to, do. So I'm also going to add that, you see this third sentence, while the first 2 are like big problems. There are problems that when people read, you are spreading misinformation, you're not credible, blah, blah, blah. But this third problem is very minute. So it's easy to not take note of it. A lot of people misspell celebrities' names. Where there's an A, they write E. Where there's O, they write I. And sometimes it's like an oversight, but hey, it's also a big problem. So misspelling people's names, misspelling the names, the titles of their songs or their movies, all these little mistakes are also big problems. So what do you do in cases like this? If you are not sure, you go back and Google Kiss Daniel. Then Google will help you correct it to Keys. Or you write Kiss Daniel's latest song so you can check for the spelling of Twetwe. This is part of research. And that's why I said research can also be like very tiny. There are times where I write people's names like Mo Abudu, then I go back to check the spelling of Mo Abudu. It sounds silly, but hey, better safe. The same thing with names like Lanre da Silva. Do you know if it has a hyphen or not? It's better to go and check. So you don't put a hyphen where there is no hyphen, you know? So there are like, there's this Christian musician now, he sang Gratitude. What's his full name? An Endless Ocean, you know, and there is no space between each of these words. So an endless ocean is like one word. These are things that while writing, you go back and check just to confirm, did I spell this name correctly? The title of this song, is it correct? So that's why I said research can both be bigger things like, you know, not passing false info, but also very little things like spelling people's names correctly. Even things as little as getting the year. So it was released in 2024. What if it was released in 2023 and it was the video that was released in 2024? So it's very important to pay attention to little things. A lack of research will strip you of credibility and honor. It's to get to a point when people know that, this Dunsin is fond of writing fake news. They will stop reading Dunsin because I beg you, whatever she writes is a lie. It will also boost your lack of knowledge. You know, normally, we don't know it all. But not doing research will cost you of the little that you already know, Seth. Before you know it, slowly but surely, we are becoming olodos simply because we are too lazy to read. And then you will become a mediocre writer and storyteller. So above all, your story is going to lack depth and substance because you cannot back it up with facts. Do we have any questions so far? If we do, please always put it in the chat box. Now, the great news, the beautiful news about it all is that Google is what? Everybody's friend. Google loves us all. Google does not discriminate. You know, it is your friend, it is my friend. So please use Google, utilize Google a lot. Now, to write a story, to conduct proper research, the first thing is, what do you want to say? So I've written an essay topic here. What makes the African woman's hair such an important conversation? This is what we want to say. We want to talk about the African woman's hair. You know, we want to be a part of this conversation. For those who are like conversant with Twitter, you would know that it trended a lot on Twitter. Everybody talking about why African women like to wear wigs, why African women don't love their natural hair and stuff. And I was reading opinions and I was laughing because a little research will show that for a lot of Africans in the diaspora, they do not wear their natural hair because of the system, because of systemic discrimination. A lot of women have come out to say, oh, when they wear their afro, their boss tells them they don't look professional enough. So when you want to write, you want to take it from this angle as opposed to joining everybody on Twitter to say, now wow, women just like wig. That's a very shallow angle to take it from. You know, so first things first, what do you want to say and how do you want to say it? You want to, when writing a story, you want to pick the angle that is as unique as possible. There are many unique angles, but you also want to pick an angle that is not as if you're just regurgitating everything everybody has said, because hey, what's the essence in saying everything everybody has said? So you want to pick an angle that is unique. Now, you also want to find out what others are saying about it and how they are articulating their thoughts. That's where reading essays come in and checking social media. And now, here's the catch. Don't check social media and go and pick everything everybody is saying, because you did not hear it from me, but people on social media can be very shallow. I did not say that, but you also want to see how they are articulating their thoughts. There are some people that have articulated my thoughts better than I have, and they're not even writers. They just say something on Twitter and you're like, this is me. So you want to also check that out. Now, you want to identify the structure of the essay. So we have like less than 1 minute to go. And if Zoom kicks us out, please, I'll urge you to join this class, because we are yet to talk about structure. But you want to identify the structure of the essay. How is this essay going to be addressed? What part of this story will be presented first or last? Are you, introducing the character first? Are you introducing the settings first? Then identify specific pain points to research. Now, if we are talking about what makes the African woman's hair such an important conversation, so we want to ask Google questions like, what's the history of the African woman's hair? What were the different types of styles and during what era? What made those styles popular? There's a reason why everybody is talking about this particular topic, and you want to find out why.